It is Monday, January 26, 2026. And I don't know about you, but if you have been glued to the news feeds like we have for the last, 48 hours?
Oh, at least.
You know that the air in the Middle East isn't just heavy right now. It is absolutely static.
It is. It feels like that split second before a massive thunderstorm breaks.
Except that split second has stretched out for days.
You know, it's a state of suspended animation. I think that's really the only way to describe it. We're seeing all the actors just freeze in place.
Weapons drawn.
Exactly.
And that is what we are digging into today, because we aren't talking about a war that has actively started this morning.
No, not yet.
We are looking at the frantic, quiet, and honestly terrifying preparations for one that might start tomorrow or Wednesday.
Or not at all, if the deterrence holds. But the sources we have on the desk today, they paint a very specific, very urgent picture.
Right, and we're not just looking at headlines here. We've got intelligence reports, civil aviation warnings.
Some truly disturbing internal documents leaking out of Iran, and the latest location data on U.S. naval assets.
So our mission is to connect these dots.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, a political meeting in Jerusalem, a blackout in Tehran, and a carrier group in the Gulf of Oman might seem like separate news tickers.
But they're not. When you layer them, a huge question emerges. Are we looking at standard deterrence?
Or are we looking at the final countdown?
The evidence suggests we are in what military strategists call a decision window.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because the phrase that keeps popping up in the reports, especially regarding the U.S. posture, is waiting for the green light.
Specifically, a green light from President Trump. The reporting indicates the administration is currently split on the tactical approach.
Split how?
Whether to go for a limited strike to send a message or something much broader to disable capabilities. But the consensus across all our sources is that the physical preparations are complete.
So this isn't a cold start scenario where we're scrambling to move assets into place.
Not at all. A cold start is waking up pilots, fueling jets. This is a warm start. The engine is idling.
Or revving. And the biggest piston in that engine just arrived.
The USS Abraham Lincoln.
That's the carrier strike group that just pulled into the neighborhood, right?
Correct. It arrived in the Arabian Sea and Gulf of Oman on Friday, January 25. And that was really the final piece of the puzzle.
We've been tracking those C-17 transport flights for weeks.
Flying back and forth, stocking the region with munitions, spare parts, logistical support. I mean, that's the boring stuff that actually wins wars.
But the arrival of the Lincoln.
That marks the completion of the buildup.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. The Pentagon's official line is always defensive.
Always.
It's about keeping Iran honest. Is that just diplomatic fluff? Or is there a world where a carrier strike group is just a really, really big paperweight?
It's offense backed by solid defense.
Huh?
You have to understand the cost-benefit analysis here. You do not park a carrier strike group in the Gulf of Oman just to wave the flag.
It's a multi-billion-dollar asset.
A floating city with thousands of sailors. If you put it there, specifically in that box of water, it's because you believe there is a high probability you will need to launch sorties from its deck.
It's like putting on your full football pads.
Yeah.
You don't do that to sit on the couch and watch Netflix.
Precisely. And the sources mention more than just the boat. They highlight the forward basing of electronic warfare aircraft and extra air and missile defense batteries. The text explicitly says these systems are fully operational.
The shield is up.
The shield is up. And historically, Washington only builds the shield this thick when they expect an Iranian first move or, and this is the key, when they are setting the conditions to act themselves while trying to minimize the blowback.
So the gun is loaded, safety is off. But there's another signal in the stack that I found really interesting. It's not military hardware.
Political software.
Exactly. And it's coming from Jerusalem. You're talking about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow night.
Between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Yair Lapid.
Yes. Now, for listeners who don't follow the minutiae of the Knesset, Lapid is the opposition leader.
And he and Netanyahu are bitter rivals. They don't exactly hang out for coffee on Tuesday nights.
No, they haven't had a one-on-one briefing like this in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That gap matters, doesn't it?
It matters a lot. In the Israeli system, these kinds of security briefings between the prime minister and the opposition leader, They aren't for routine updates. They aren't discussing the budget.
Right.
These are institutional mechanisms reserved for the big calls.
And big calls implies something that's going to affect the whole country.
It implies operations that are virtually guaranteed to draw retaliation, or situations that require national unity because the consequences, casualties, economic shutdown, are going to be felt by everyone.
Regardless of who they voted for.
Exactly. If Netanyahu is bringing Lapid into the room now, after weeks of silence, it signals that Jerusalem sees the next 48 to 72 hours as strategically critical. He's getting the political house in order.
It's a clearing the decks politically, so that if things go sideways, the government doesn't collapse.
You want the opposition inside the tent when the missiles start flying, not outside criticizing the decision to fire them.
That aligns perfectly with the next part of the research, which, honestly, this part gave me the chills. We talk about carriers and politicians, and it feels abstract. It feels like a game of risk. But then you see what's happening on the ground for regular people.
This is where the tension becomes tangible. It stops being about maps and starts being about daily life.
The Civil Aviation Authority sent out a warning to foreign airlines. They basically said, the coming weekend is a potentially sensitive security period.
And the kicker was the contingency plan.
Right. If Ben Gurion Airport closes, foreign carriers get priority to leave. It's like a last call at a bar, but for airplanes.
It's a protocol they only dust off when there's a significant risk of airspace closure. They don't want foreign planes trapped on the tarmac.
But the thing that really struck me was the health system. That feels more ominous than flight cancellations.
It is the most telling indicator in this stack, I think.
How so?
Senior hospital officials have been meeting quietly with the health ministry. They aren't announcing this on the evening news. They don't want to trigger panic, but the instructions are leaning toward full wartime readiness.
What does full readiness actually look like in a hospital? Are we talking about, like, extra shifts?
It's way beyond that. It's logistical triage on a massive scale. It means preparing to move critical wards, NICs, ICUs into underground protected spaces.
Wow.
It means discharging patients who aren't critical to free up beds immediately. And ominously, it means planning for mass casualty capacity.
Mass casualty capacity. You don't clear beds unless you think you're going to need them.
Correct. It's a grim calculus. They are clearing the decks for a worst-case scenario. And this isn't just about treating soldiers. This suggests they are worried about the home front.
But this isn't a one-sided equation. We have the axis of resistance gearing up as well. I was reading that statement from Kataib Hezbollah.
They are a premier Iranian-backed militia in Iraq, heavily armed, ideologically committed. They are a serious paramilitary force.
Right. So there's Secretary General Abu Hussein al-Hamidawi. He didn't mince words. He called for comprehensive war.
And he framed Iran as the fortress of the Ummah. That rhetoric is important. He's urging the entire axis of resistance to prepare for martyrdom operations.
He's essentially saying, if the U.S. strikes the fortress, the battlefield is everywhere.
That's it. It is a call to activate sleeper cells and strike across borders.
And the Houthis in Yemen are jumping in, too. They released that video.
The one caption simply, soon.
Yeah, showing a ship on fire. I assume that's a threat to close down the Red Sea shipping lanes again.
Absolutely. They are signaling that if the U.S. moves against Iran, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a choke point for global trade, is closed for business.
And in Tehran itself, they've unveiled a new mural explicitly threatening the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Subtlety is officially dead.
It died a long time ago. But what we're seeing here is this unity of fronts strategy, right?
It is. Iran wants the U.S. and Israel to know that a war with Tehran isn't just a war with Tehran. It's a war with Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon. It's a regional firestorm. They're trying to make the cost of pulling that trigger seem impossibly high.
Okay, so we have the external chessboard set. Carrier is parked, hospitals are ready, proxies are threatening holy war. But here is where the story pivots. Because the sources suggest that the biggest threat to the Iranian regime right now might not be the USS Abraham Lincoln. It might be their own people.
This is the hidden crisis, and arguably it's more volatile than the border tensions because it strikes at the legitimacy of the regime itself.
Let's talk about the blackout. I feel like this got buried in all the general war noise.
And that was by design. Starting January 8th, Iran implemented an 18-day internet shutdown. NetBlocks, which monitors global internet traffic, called it one of the most complete blackouts they have ever seen.
They pulled the plug to hide something. You don't turn off the internet for an entire country because of a technical glitch.
No. They tried to create a digital blockade, The goal was to hide a massive crackdown. Protests had started in late December over the economy, but they morphed very quickly.
Into calls to overthrow the Islamic Republic.
Exactly.
And usually, when the lights go out digitally, bad things happen. But we actually have numbers now.
Yeah.
And the numbers in these reports they're difficult to process. They don't seem real.
They are shocking. We always have to be careful with verification during a blackout, but the range of reporting we're seeing is terrifying.
The New York Times reported around 3,000 killed early on, which is already a high number.
A very high number.
But then you look at Time magazine, they are citing health ministry officials inside Iran who claim up to 30,000 people were killed.
In just 2 days, January 8th and 9th.
30,000 people, that's a small city. And Iran International is reporting even higher, over 36,500, based on leaked documents and witness accounts.
I mean, to put that in perspective, if those numbers are even remotely accurate, we are talking about a historic massacre. That's not a crackdown.
No.
That is a casualty rate that rivals full-scale conventional battles. It suggests the regime stopped using riot control and started using war tactics against its own population.
And despite the blackout, images are getting out. How?
Technology always finds a way. Smuggled Starlink terminals, VPNs. The digital blockade failed because you can't fully seal off a country anymore. And the footage that is coming out, it is horrific.
The sources describe overflowing morgues. They describe 18-wheel trucks being used to haul corpses because the ambulances couldn't keep up.
And reports of police firing live rounds into unarmed crowds at point-blank range. This explains why the regime is in such a panic. They know these images are fatal to them.
Yeah, let's talk about that panic, because usually regimes like this try to project strength. We are in control.
Right. Everything is fine. But this reaction feels desperate. It is frantic. You have reports that Supreme Leader Khamenei was moved to a secure bunker during the worst of the violence.
That is not something you do if you feel in control of the streets.
That is a survival move.
And the denial. Did you see the quote from the Foreign Ministry spokesman, Esmail Baghaei?
Yes, I did.
He called the Time magazine report a Hitler-style big lie.
That language is incredibly telling, isn't it?
It's so aggressive. He claimed the West planned to kill 30,000 people but failed, so now they are just faking the numbers. It sounds completely unhinged.
It sounds like fear. When a regime invokes Hitler and the big lie to deny a news report, they aren't engaging in diplomacy. They are in a full-blown damage control. They thought cutting the internet would hide the bloodbath.
It didn't.
And now they are fighting a war on two fronts. The Americans and Israelis on the outside, and a population that is willing to die in the tens of thousands to remove them on the inside.
It puts the external posturing in a whole new light. If you're cornered at home, if you've already killed 30,000 of your own people, maybe a war with the great Satan is exactly the distraction you need.
That is the classic dictator's playbook. Rally around the flag, externalize the enemy. It turns protesters into traitors aiding the American invader. It simplifies the narrative for them.
Before we wrap up, I want to pivot briefly. We've been talking about tens of thousands of casualties in these massive geopolitical shifts, but there's one story in the stack that brings this back down to the individual level.
The search for Ren Gavili.
Yeah. This really struck me. Amidst all this talk of carriers and blackouts, there's this one specific search going on. Can you give us the context?
Ren Gavili was a 24-year-old border police officer. He was killed on October 7, 2023. His body was taken into Gaza.
And it's been nearly 2.5 years.
As of this report, 843 days. He is the last known hostage or remains still held in Gaza.
And there's an update.
Hamas has reportedly provided mediators with coordinates, so the IDF Southern Command is now searching a specific cemetery area in northern Gaza known as the Yellow Line.
So is this cooperation? Is Hamas finally just handing him over to close the book?
It's never that simple with Hamas. The sources describe it as almost a treasure hunt. Even in this, they are creating friction.
What do you mean?
They gave the coordinates, but they're making Israel work for it. They're making the soldiers dig. It's a power play. They are handing over their last bargaining chip, but they want to extract the maximum psychological toll while doing it.
843 days. It just underscores the length and the pain of this conflict, even as we look at the potential for a new, much bigger one exploding.
It is a somber reminder that while we look at the next war, the wounds of the current one are still wide open.
So let's bring this all together.
Yeah.
Because we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We have a U.S. carrier group parked in the Gulf, fully loaded. We have Israeli hospitals clearing beds for mass casualties, which is just a terrifying indicator.
Absolutely.
We have Iran trying to cover up what might be the worst domestic massacre in its history, with potentially 30,000 dead. And we have the Proxies threatening a holy war.
So what here is that the region is in a true decision window. Military readiness is at 100%. The assets are in place. The logistics are done.
The only variable left is political intent. It's preparation today for war tomorrow.
Precisely. And the scariest part is that usually these buildups act as deterrents. You show the gun so you don't have to shoot it. But with the internal pressure on the Iranian regime, the fact that they're essentially at war with their own population, the calculus might have changed.
Deterrence relies on a rational actor who wants to preserve the status quo.
And I'm not sure the status quo exists for Tehran anymore.
And that leads me to the thought I want to leave you with today. The Iranian regime is fighting for its life, not just against the U.S. Navy, but against its own citizens. History tells us that when a regime in this part of the world feels the walls closing in at home, they often choose a foreign war to distract from the collapse. If the internal death toll is truly 30,000, if they have already crossed that line, what desperate measure might they take next to change the narrative? Because a cornered animal is dangerous, but a cornered regime with ballistic missiles, that is a whole different level of risk.
It's a terrifying variable.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Keep your eyes on the news. We'll be watching right along with you.